When and where did esports start? The answer is quite simple. It began in the minds of people who thought that having a real opponent in karateka would be much cooler than fighting against the computer. It began with the guys who decided to compete by comparing each other's arcade scores. It began with friends gathering together, getting pumped up about competing in a completely random, harmless party game. It began with people playing Empire Deluxe and Steel Panther over email. Simply put, esports started with the most human desire: to compete. And not long ago, esports felt like a miracle. It was the kind of thing no one expected to work. Kids hunched over dusty CRTs in basements and internet cafes, scraping together enough bus fare to some dingy regional tournament. Friends would pool their money, crash on each other's floors, and play until their hands cramped. Fans packed into community centers and theaters, screaming for players they knew by name. The essence of grassroots esports wasn't in money. Those early prize pools would barely cover the ticket fare to go back home. It was all competitive glory, as well as the unbelievable idea of playing video games competitively. Many of those early events were hosted by the players and fans, for the players and fans. Something that preceded all the esports, Twin Galaxies and their national arcade scoreboard, was made possible by a single guy, Walter Day, going around the arcades and manually recording all the high scores. QuakeCon, the original LAN event for Quake lovers, originated in the Quake channel of a big IRC server. And we all know the history of Battle by the Bay and how Cannon brothers, Joey Kular and Seth Killian created something that would be later known as EVO. Somewhere around that time, first tournament organizers started popping up, but they were largely losing money on all of it, and some didn't even have developer or publisher support. However, early events like OGN Star League, the Cyber Athlete Professional League, and the World Cyber Games are what people envisioned as proper esports. This perfectly coincided with the internet becoming more readily available in most of the developed world, and that's when it started to get real traction. Fighting games had some of the most interesting storylines. Counter-Strike had a wild west of unrestricted competition, and Warcraft 3 awoke China to esports, although StarCraft Brood War and CS 1.5 already had some competitive presence there. Back then, organizers and players tried to out-one-up each other, go flashier, weirder, louder. Everyone wanted to be heard and seen. Everyone dreamt of a better future for esports. The one where playing video games competitively would be a viable career path. But if we fast forward to 2025, that spark is gone. Esports have become soulless, because came along those who preyed on that dream. It's not difficult to pinpoint just when the downfall started, and just like anything in life, there is no singular culprit we can point our finger at. One of the major seismic events was video game industry as a whole experiencing unprecedented growth. More marketplaces, higher budgets, heavy marketing, mainstream appeal. All of this reached even those who have never pressed a square or Y button in their lives. Many haven't even seen one, but they heard enough. Money could be made in video games. A certain subset of these moneybags took a long, hard look at esports and surmised, hey, this is just like our good old traditional sports. Without giving any real thought to how it all works and why. Hey, we've successfully invested in the New York Mets and made a profit. This shouldn't be any different, they said merrily while signing off on paychecks, expecting Green Arrow to go up. They rushed to invest in endemic organizations, bastardizing them in the process, converting their entire purpose to generating revenue. Celebrities with various degrees of popularity and expiration date also appeared on the broadcast to add to the air of legitimacy. The appearances had to be maintained after all. Organization valuations ballooned out of proportion, but the expenditures far outran the revenues, as there simply wasn't enough money in the scenes they competed in. So they signed more players, called for additional investment rounds, pulled in more sponsors, and even went for dubious crypto endeavors. Ask TSM how that one worked out. This happened again and again and again, with the bubble growing ever larger. What happened after is known as esports winter, and it could be a topic for several videos by itself. But before it all came crashing down for many, the changes their involvement forced to make scarred many a scene forever. One of the ways to secure the investments, guarantee a steady airtime, and attract more sponsors was thought to be franchising, a popular model in modern American sports, where all the organizations are in static, predetermined leagues without European-style promotion and relegation. Oftentimes, such leagues have a revenue share structure where every single participant profits from it eventually. So the geniuses behind some of the most popular esports titles scrambled to set up something similar, buying leagues with the slots arbitrarily valued in tens of millions of dollars. This, among other things, absolutely destroyed one of the core grassroots principles of esports, where anyone could theoretically succeed with enough skill. In fact, over the years, some of the most successful organizations of the modern day have benefited from being a part of the promotion and relegation system. Cloud9 back in the day was just a stack of 5 gamers, and European giant G2 Esports was created when Carlos Ocelot Rodriguez, benched by SK Gaming, decided to form Gamers 2 and show everyone that his team could both win and entertain, and so he started competing in the lower league with up-and-coming talents on the roster. There were no more underdog runs, no success stories. Even the romanticized version of esports shown in the 2022 Paramount mockumentary Players was no longer something that could be accomplished. Instead, this was replaced by teams losing their identities. Staff and players who founded them being ousted and replaced like expired assets by the forced full local nature of the teams, in desperate attempt to garner more support by manufacturing local pride. And in this, they made the funniest mistake. Esports was so popular among the younger generation because it epitomized the idea of even completely unrelated people coming together and competing. There were no addresses, no hometowns, there were only cringe nicknames and one shared goal: to win. Minnesotans wouldn't start supporting Minnesota Rocker in Call of Duty League. The only reason why it was based in Minnesota is that one of the organizers simply decided that it should be one of the cities, and the Rocker in the name was given to the team because the management liked the Norse theming, and the word translates to Twilight. OWL's case was even funnier. Their teams also rep the city: New York Excelsior, London Spitfire, Shanghai Dragons. But all the teams played in Los Angeles, at the Blizzard Arena in Burbank. So London versus Shanghai was actually LA versus LA, just with different jerseys. Mickey Mouse League with franchise decals slapped on. And when the Homestead fantasy was finally going to be expanded upon, a certain virus hit the planet and said nope, killing all the momentum. We all know what happened next. OWL folded without some owners even having paid the franchise fee in full. But franchising is a coin with two sides, and if on one of the sides there are VCs and orgs, the other side is the league itself, and they're just as culpable in the current state of the events as anybody else, if not more. Back in the day when tournaments were mainly hosted by third-party organizers, developers and publishers didn't have to do much but license out the rights to hold the events. However, when everyone decided to organize franchise leagues independently, they suddenly had to do a lot on their own. They needed to hire the commissioner, recruit dedicated production and esports teams, source sponsors, agree on the venue lease, etc, etc. You get the idea. But instead of thinking, let's continue doing what all these fans have been watching all this time and make it better, they started to change things to make it more convenient for the stakeholders. Changing the schedule timing to the weekends instead of weekdays. Swap the format to best of ones so that every team appears during the prime time. Even changed the scoreboard to be more like traditional sports. What we ended up having as a result is a very neutered and inoffensive presentation, as safe as possible. Some of the esports titles have absolutely incredible commentators, but they're working within such strict boundaries that it just comes off as inauthentic, despite many of them being huge fans of the games they're casting, and having the ability to completely envelop you within anything that's happening on the screen. Instead, they're advised against criticizing players. They can't even use jargon or slang, let alone swear, because wouldn't someone think of the children? Just never mind those gambling and alcohol ads in the background. League of Legends managed to go the farthest, stepping well into the corporate cringe territory. In-game moments now have sponsors, and the casters can't bring them up without sponsor integrations, thanks to which we have gems like MasterCard First Item, Axe Replay, Red Bull Baron Power Play, and even full sentences like this.
It looked like Genji had everything set up, they were playing it slow, but thanks to the reliable Cisco network, T1 get a pick, mid, and 2 towers with the Heralds.
It's as if they're trying to appease the stakeholders and imaginary 60-year-olds who grew up with the stuff while watching baseball. So the question that naturally forms after witnessing this is, who are these ads aimed at? And not just these integrated ones, esports ads in general have become very questionable. It's as if they never do any research into the audience. And while some are harmlessly mistargeted, like okay, Mercedes is willing to continue to pay for ad placement despite only a very small percent of esports players being able to afford their brand new cars, the others are straight up potentially harmful. Alcohol, we know what you're doing, Heineken 0.0, stop pretending, dubious crypto exchanges, and even gambling, with Riot being the latest company to open its doors and welcoming it in. An additional layer of cringe is brought in by the players who become ambassadors of various brands, and now have to act in the adverts. Just like good old traditional sports athletes, isn't that right? But the reality is that these are kids with no social skills who are watched by other kids with no social skills. They don't want to sell you stuff they haven't ever used. They want to sit there and play video games instead of participating in this farce. The reality is that the esports audience isn't very affluent. The sponsors know this, the organizers know this, and the teams know this as well. Franchise leagues and teams, bloated with VC money and under pressure to deliver returns, are scrambling to monetize every possible bit of the fan experience, which is becoming increasingly paywalled. VIP passes, exclusive content bundles, meet and greets, battle passes, overpriced merch drops. It's all part of the desperate push to squeeze revenue out of an audience that largely grew up expecting everything to be free. Instead of building around what makes esports unique, accessibility, community, global reach, the model copies traditional sports at its worst. Overpriced tickets, tiered access, and a growing divide between the casual fans and the real experience. Live events are now prohibitively expensive for many, even as attendance drops. Authentic traditional sports experience, even down to the scalpers buying all the tickets with bots. As someone who has had access to what happens behind the curtains, I can safely say, and this will not be a huge revelation to any of you, they do not care. Betting in casino companies, VCs, bookies, they will all bleed the last esports fan dry if they are given the chance to do so. They're all operating under the same principle and have the identical argument for their involvement. Without us, esports would have no money and you would get $100 for winning an event. This is coming from the people who say stuff like, we must instill in our customers that it's okay to lose money, and the betting experience in itself is a part of the entertainment. It's a real quote. They also hate it when they're called gambling companies. It's iGaming now. You're not gambling away your savings. You're enjoying a casual game of chance. Sadly, it's not just on them. Time and time again, retired legends or current players who have fallen into irrelevancy are very eager to promote them for quick gains. And hey, if the former CSGO and Dota 2 legends are doing this, then it's fine, right? The very same thing is happening with EWC. Certain League of Legends players were actively posturing against Neom's sponsorship of LEC. But as soon as EWC's bags reached them, it became a totally cool event. Teams that participate are fully hooked as well, signing and dropping players left, right and center in hopes to improve their final overall standing, because a swing of even one position could mean the difference between millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is not us having rose-tinted glasses about how cool everything was in the past. Esports has become a cog in the corporate business machine. Players are rounding errors, and the audience is, first and foremost, a source of revenue. The question is, will we ever do anything about it?